Also up here tonight is a woman who I know wishes she was down there in the crowd watching and not up here on the stage being watched, because she never seeks the limelight. But I'm going to ask her to step forward and be in the limelight for a minute. Mrs. Varhue. Get out of here, but not that fast. So Mary Ellen Varhue is not only a wonderful colleague, she is a cherished longtime friend of mine. In fact, when I was talking with her about her time at St. Francis Xavier, we both struggled to get our dates straight about when she officially began working here, because she was a vital part of St. Francis Xavier School and our science program long before she became a teacher. Mrs. Varhue's 3 children attended St. Francis, and she and I met here as fellow parents literally decades ago. Mary Ellen was an engineer at that time at IBM, and a really, really good engineer. Her husband, Wally, was an electrical engineering professor at UVM, has described her as the smartest person he ever met. And Wally has met a lot of very smart people. Paul Mervins was here tonight, was another St. Francis Xavier parent and also an engineer, and he thought we should introduce a science fair at the school. So he and Mary Ellen worked as volunteers to make that a reality. Then, a few years later, St. Francis needed a middle school science teacher. The incredibly generous Mrs. Varhue stepped forward and said she would take a 1-year sabbatical from IBM to teach middle school science for us. 1 year. That was the plan. But her plan hit a snag. She fell in love with teaching, and she fell in love with the students here at St. Francis. She said goodbye to IBM and hello to SFX and life as a middle school science teacher at a small Catholic school in New York. So much for Wally's theory that she's the smartest person he ever met. That move occurred in the fall of 2004. She spent the next 15 years teaching middle school math and science. During her time here, she developed a top-flight science and math curriculum, including the science fair program that each year produces remarkable results. And the interesting thing is, just as she fell in love with teaching, her students fell in love with her. As it happens, she's not just incredibly smart, well, except when it comes to making career choices. She's also a woman of amazing kindness, warmth, generosity, and faith, and her students responded to that. We have here, don't let me forget to give it to you, we have a booklet from a number of her former students and parents who wrote in notes of thanks and recollection. And there were some recurring themes, and 3 of the things that were repeated in almost every note. 1, Mrs. Varhue was one of the best, if not the best teacher they ever had. And this came from kids who have gone through high school, college, and graduate school. 2, Mrs. Varhue's passion and love for science and math ignited a similar passion in her students. And 3, because of Mrs. Varhue, many of her students have gone on to study and find careers in STEM. She tried to retire in 2019, but when a colleague faced a health challenge that year, naturally Mary Ellen agreed to step in to teach algebra for us, supposedly for just 1 year. That was 4 years ago. And here she is, still our algebra teacher, still remarkably dedicated to her students. At our last in-person science fair in 2020, it was announced that our middle school science classroom and lab would become the Mary Ellen Varhue Science Center. COVID derailed our plans to make that official in 2021 and 2022. But now, finally, we are keeping our word. So, Mr. Hill, could you please share the text of the plaque that's going to be going up outside our new Science Center?
Ms. Varhue has touched the lives of hundreds of students as a beloved math and science teacher. Her passion and skill as a teacher have inspired students and colleagues alike. St. Francis Xavier School has been blessed by your presence, Ms. Varhue.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, and thank you to everybody. I wrote down a few words, and I was actually thinking about the last time we were here. It was March 2020. We had the science fair was here, the day was great, the evening was great, and we had no idea what was about to hit us. And it's been now 2 years, and it feels so good to be back here, doesn't it? These 2 years, I am so, so proud and amazed at how this community, faculty, staff, everybody, families associated with the school came through it together. It's something I'm very, very privileged to have worked with this community and to be associated with St. Francis. The biggest thing I wanted to say is the people in this building work so, so hard for our students. They inspire me all the time. Looking around, you can see, and Mr. Melnick, Ms. Brazo, Mrs. Bollinger, huge amount of work, and they've done a wonderful job. The students do a great job. They bring so much joy to me in all the years that I was here, and families who are so supportive of what goes on. It's an unusual thing, it's a special thing, and I really feel like it's a privilege to be associated with this. Science is important. It's important, and anything that we can do to nurture our young people's curiosity has an impact through their whole lives. And maybe it's a career in science, medicine, engineering, that's great. But I almost think more importantly is if we can foster an understanding of the world around us, it's going to lead, it makes for a more joyful life, a more fulfilled life. And it brings us to that stewardship role that we all need to do in our earth. And I really am grateful to be able to be a part of that. And I thank all of you for the continued support of our students and really leading them on that path. It's just a wonderful thing. So thank you for everybody.